Elias Corven never expected his day to end inside one of the most exclusive locations in all of Helion Spire. In fact, when he woke up that morning, he believed it would be another routine cycle of fixing badly written system logs, reviewing automated diagnostics, and drinking far too much synth coffee. Nothing about his ordinary life hinted that something strange was waiting for him, or that his CEO, the most powerful person in the company, would personally drag him into it. Elias worked as a junior systems analyst for Vorus Dynamics, one of the largest human-run corporations on Earth and its orbital colonies. The company designed starship cores, defensive grids, and high-level AI regulators. Most people joined Vorus Dynamics, dreaming of innovation, prestige, or wealth. Elias joined because he liked machines more than people. Machines made sense. People did not. It started at 17:03, when he was preparing to log off. The office lights were dimming, a clear signal that working hours were over. Elias stretched, saved his reports, and reached for his jacket when his wristcom blinked with a new message. Priority level, Executive 01. Mandatory, attend off-site briefing, immediately. Location, Private Skydeck 77. He froze. Executive 01 meant one person, Dr. Celine Vorus, founder and CEO of Vorus Dynamics. Elias felt his stomach sink. He had never met her in person. She was a legend, a genius, a strategist, and according to rumors, a woman who could fire an entire division before breakfast and still have time to design a new starship engine before lunch. People called her the Iron Star. Others called her the most brilliant human of their century. None of those titles made Elias feel better. "Why me?" he whispered to himself. "I didn't break anything today." "I don't think." But the message said mandatory, so he had no choice. He hurried through the quiet halls of the corporate tower, tapping his foot nervously inside the elevator as it rose through dozens of glass floors. The city glittered below like a circuit board brought to life. Helion Spire, the largest orbital megacity around Earth, floated in the upper stratosphere like a silver crown. From here, Elias could see both the curve of the planet and the deep black of space stretching above. The elevator doors opened onto Skydeck 77, a private docking ring usually meant for high-ranking guests and military partners. Elias had no idea why a junior analyst like him would ever be called here. As he stepped forward, an assistant drone drifted toward him, a smooth white sphere with a glowing blue eye. "Elias Corven?" the drone asked politely. Yes. Dr. Vorus is expecting you. Right this way." Expecting him? That made no sense. The drone led him through a long hallway lined with translucent panels. Behind them, beams of soft light moved like living threads, giving the path a glowing, dreamlike look. At the end of the hall, a set of tall metallic doors slid open to reveal a platform connected to a small shuttle. "Please board," the drone instructed. Elias stepped inside. The shuttle was quiet and luxurious, with soft seats and a transparent dome ceiling. A moment later, the shuttle detached from the docking ring and glided upward. Elias's breath caught at the view. The Earth below, the stars above, and the glowing city rotating gently around both. The shuttle slowed as it approached a floating structure, a glass-like sphere suspended on magnetic anchors. It looked like a bubble made of crystal, hanging between the sky and the stars. He recognized it. The Celestial Gardens, one of the most expensive sky restaurants ever built. Every table had a full 360-degree view of space. Why am I here?" Elias muttered. The shuttle docked. A new door slid open, and the same drone voice spoke. "Dr. Vorus is waiting inside." Elias stepped out, heart pounding. The interior of the Celestial Gardens was made of polished white floors, floating lanterns, and holographic flowers drifting in the air. Only a handful of tables existed, each separated by gentle curtains of light, and at the farthest table alone sat Dr. Celine Vorus. Elias recognized her instantly from countless news broadcasts. Tall, composed, with sharp features softened by calm gray eyes, she wore a simple dark coat with silver trim, nothing flashy, yet somehow she looked more commanding than the entire station around her. But what shocked him wasn't her appearance. It was the table. A table set for two. Elias almost turned around and got back on the shuttle. Clearly, he had walked into the wrong reservation. Or maybe he was about to be fired in the most expensive room in the solar system. Dr. Voris looked up from the data slate in her hands. "Elias Corvin," she said softly. Her voice was calm, smooth, and far less intimidating than he expected. Still, Elias stood stiff, like a malfunctioning robot. Good evening, Dr. Voris," he managed to say. I think there might be a mistake." "There is no mistake." She gestured to the seat across from her. "Please, sit." Elias obeyed, because what else could he do? His hands shook slightly as he sat down. The restaurant air smelled faintly of jasmine and some otherworldly spice. Soft instrumental music drifted in the background. It felt like a date, which made no sense. Celine Voris was the highest-ranked human in the company. He was basically a nobody. This was ridiculous, impossible, absurd. He opened his mouth to say something, anything, when she spoke first. "I imagine you are wondering why I asked you here." Her tone was calm and controlled. But there was something underneath it. Something Elias couldn't name. "Yes," he admitted. "I really am." She studied him for a moment, eyes thoughtful. "You submitted 17 anomaly reports in the past 4 months," she said. "Most analysts submit 2 per year." Elias blinked. "You read my reports?" "I read everything unusual," she replied. "Your reports were very unusual." Elias felt his face heat. He thought those reports would be ignored. Most supervisors brushed him off when he mentioned strange quantum echoes appearing in starship logs. They said it was noise, system glitches, or harmless interference. Selene continued. "Your observations are accurate. Your conclusions are incomplete, but promising. I didn't think anyone noticed." She offered a faint smile. "I noticed." Elias swallowed. His nervousness grew. Something about her expression told him this dinner wasn't about firing him. But that made things even more confusing. A moment of silence passed between them. The stars twinkled behind the transparent walls. Elias tried to understand the situation. Why him? Why here? Why like this? Finally, Celine lowered her eyes slightly and spoke in a quieter voice. "If you are only being polite," she said gently, "you may leave." Elias froze. Her tone wasn't cold or annoyed. It was vulnerable? No. That couldn't be right. The CEO of Voris Dynamics didn't sound vulnerable, but she did now. She looked at him not like a superior addressing an employee, but like someone unsure of how he might react. "You didn't have to accept the invitation," she continued. "I understand how strange this must feel, and I don't want you to stay here out of obligation. If you wish to go, the shuttle will return you safely to the tower." Elias stared at her, confusion twisting inside him. Why would she say that? Why would she give someone like him the option to walk away from a meeting she personally arranged? For a moment, he wondered if she had mistaken him for someone else. Someone important. Someone confident. But no, she had said his name clearly. He took a slow breath. "I don't want to leave," he said quietly. "I just want to understand why I'm here." Celine nodded, her expression softening. "Then let us begin," she said. "Because there is something I need to tell you. Something I cannot discuss in any normal meeting room." Elias leaned forward slightly, and for the first time in his life, he felt that something extraordinary was about to begin. Elias sat across from Celine Voris, the glittering stars of the celestial gardens stretching behind her like an endless ocean of light. The soft hum of the restaurant's magnetic stabilizers was the only sound that broke the tense silence between them. For a moment, he almost expected her to ask why he had arrived late to a routine briefing, or to reprimand him for some trivial mistake he could not even remember. Instead, she leaned forward, resting her hands on the table, and spoke in a tone that was calm but unusually intimate. "You noticed something," she said, "about the quantum echoes." Elias blinked, his mind raced. Did she really read my reports? All of them? I thought they were glitches," he stammered. Most of the team ignored them. Celine's eyes did not leave his. "They were glitches. but glitches with a pattern that suggests something or someone was observing us, something that does not belong to our systems. Her words carried weight, her calm voice was laced with gravity, as though what she was saying was a secret that could change the future. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. Observing us? You mean alien activity? He asked quietly. Almost afraid to speak the words, Celine gave a faint nod. Not in the usual sense of extraterrestrials, no. Something more subtle. Something advanced. I have been tracking these disturbances for years. But until now, no human has noticed them clearly. Until you, he swallowed hard. Me? Why me? I'm just a junior analyst. You are not just a junior analyst, Celine said firmly. You are someone who pays attention when others do not. You ask questions when others accept the answer. You are honest with your observations. Elias's mind spun. He had expected to be ignored, maybe praised in passing. But this was completely different. The CEO of the most powerful human corporation, personally acknowledging him, and not just acknowledging him but trusting him. Why tell me this? He asked cautiously. Why not just handle it yourself, or send a senior team member? Celine's gaze softened, and for a moment, she looked almost human, almost vulnerable. Because I need someone who has not been trained to think inside the limits of the system, someone who is not afraid to challenge authority, even unknowingly, someone like you. And I needed to see if you would stay when given the choice to leave. Elias frowned. Choice to leave? She gestured to the empty seat across from him, her voice dropping to a whisper. I already said it, didn't I? You can leave if you are only being polite. Elias leaned back slightly, absorbing her words. She was serious. This was not a social experiment, not a test of manners, not even a reward for hard work. This was an invitation to step into something far bigger, something dangerous, but also something that could change everything. I don't want to leave, he said slowly. I want to understand. I want to help. Celine smiled faintly, a rare, almost human expression that softened her sharp features. Good. Then listen carefully. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small device, about the size of a wrist console, and placed it gently on the table. A soft glow pulsed from its surface. This is a harmonic analyzer, she explained. It detects quantum distortions and patterns that cannot be observed by standard AI or human sensors. For years, I have monitored these echoes, but their source remained hidden until recently. Your reports helped me locate the origin. Elias leaned forward, fascinated. You mean, my work actually helped? Yes, Celine said, and that is why I called you here. You see, most humans would not even notice these signals, let alone analyze them for patterns. But you are capable of noticing things others cannot. And that makes you valuable. Mar. Elias stared at the small device. His heart was racing. Valuable? How? What exactly is happening? Crive. Celine's expression grew serious again. Something has entered human territory. Something that communicates not through words, not through physical presence, but through subtle distortions in space-time through harmonic resonance. They are invisible to most technology. They are patient, quiet, and intelligent. And they are watching us. Elias felt his chest tighten. Watching us, like spies? Worse, Celine said softly. They are testing us. They are learning how humans operate, what humans fear, what humans trust. And so far, we do not even know who or what they are. Elias shivered. He had always thought of aliens as distant threats in movies or simulations. He had never imagined standing in a floating sky restaurant with the CEO of the largest corporation in human space, being told that humanity might already have an unseen observer among them. So, what do you want me to do? He asked cautiously. I'm just an analyst. I can report anomalies. I I can try to study the patterns. But I don't know if I'm ready for whatever this is. Celine leaned back, letting a small silence hang in the air. Then she said, "You are ready. You are already doing it. You noticed patterns. You questioned assumptions. That is exactly what is needed. And now, you will work with me." Elias blinked. "Work? With you? On what?" "A secret initiative," she said, her voice low. "A project designed to protect humanity from threats that are invisible, subtle, and unpredictable. It is not a normal department. It is not a standard team. It is a small, elite group that operates outside of normal protocol. And I want you to join it." Elias's mind raced. His heart pounded. He had imagined this moment in fantasies, sure, but never this clearly. Never with someone like Celine Voris speaking directly to him. This was bigger than anything he had imagined. Bigger than any promotion, any award, any recognition he had ever received. I don't know if I can," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "I mean, I can try." "But you can," Celine said firmly. "And you will. Because you already have the qualities that make a human worth watching by this species. If they truly exist, as I suspect. You see, humanity survives because people like you notice what others ignore. People like you do not assume the world is safe. People like you fight back, even when it seems impossible." Elias swallowed hard, staring at the glowing city below. The weight of her words settled over him like a heavy cloak. For the first time, he realized that his quiet, unnoticed work might mean something bigger, that the strange anomalies he had been chasing for months could be the beginning of something humanity had never faced before. "And if I fail?" he asked quietly. "If I make a mistake?" Celine's gaze was steady. "Then you learn. Humans fail. Humans adapt. Humans survive. That is what makes us strong. And that is why I am here. Because I need humans who believe they can fight, even when the enemy is invisible." Elias felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. He had never imagined that his careful, quiet work would lead to this sitting in a sky restaurant above Earth, speaking to the CEO of a trillion-credit enterprise about a threat he barely understood, and being invited to join a secret initiative that could decide humanity's future. He looked at Celine, seeing not just a leader, but someone who trusted him, someone who believed he could make a difference. And for the first time, he realized he wanted to rise to that challenge. I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll help. Tell me what to do." Celine's smile widened, subtle but genuine this time. "Good," she said, "because you are already doing it. You are thinking. You are observing. And that is more than most people can do when faced with something beyond their understanding." For a long moment, they both sat in silence, watching the stars outside the transparent walls. The celestial gardens was beautiful. Yes, but it also felt like a place suspended between reality and the unknown. And for Elias, it felt like the beginning of a journey he could not have imagined. "You will need to learn quickly," Celine said, breaking the silence. "Because the phenomena you have been tracking are becoming more frequent, more organized. If humanity does not understand them soon, we could face consequences we are not ready for." Elias nodded. "I understand. I'll do whatever I can." Quote, Celine leaned forward again. "And one more thing," she whispered. "This is not just about observation. This is about trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in humans. And trust that even when the situation seems impossible, we can survive. We always have." Elias felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. He was just one person, a junior analyst. Yet, for the first time, he realized that humans, despite all their flaws, mistakes, and limitations, had a strength that no machine, no AI, and no alien observation could fully understand. He also realized that, for the first time in his life, he was part of something bigger than himself, something that could define the future of humanity. And as he looked at Celine, sitting across from him with quiet determination. He understood why she had chosen him. Not because he was extraordinary, not because he was fearless, but because he believed in humanity enough to notice when the world itself was trying to hide its secrets. Elias Corvin, junior analyst, ordinary human, was about to step into the unknown, and for the first time, he felt ready. The stars outside twinkled in silent encouragement, or maybe in quiet warning. Either way, humanity had gained a new observer. And the journey had just begun. The next day, Elias returned to his small apartment in Helion Spire, but sleep eluded him. His mind raced, replaying every moment from the celestial gardens. The words Celine had spoken, the device she showed him, the quiet gravity of her gaze, all of it lingered in his thoughts. He tried to focus on the mundane things, the hum of his apartment's systems, the blinking lights of his holo console, the soft drift of artificial air currents, but none of it could distract him. Something had changed. Everything had changed. By noon, a secure message arrived on his wrist console. It was from Celine herself. Subject: orientation for Vanguard assignment. Location: Vorus Dynamics, sublevel Gamma. Time: immediate. Elias's pulse quickened. He knew he had only two choices: ignore it and pretend this had all been a mistake, or follow through and step into the unknown. He did not hesitate. He grabbed his jacket, secured his analyzer kit, and activated his personal transport pod. Within minutes, he was descending into the depths of Vorus Dynamics, far below the familiar executive floors, into sublevel Gamma, a section so secret that few employees even knew it existed. The air changed as he entered sublevel Gamma. It was cooler, denser, the faint scent of ozone lingering from the energy shielding systems. Lights glowed in soft blue strips along the floor, walls, and ceiling. The hum here was different. More controlled. More purposeful. He felt as though the building itself was alive. Watching. Listening. Anticipating. A door slid open ahead, revealing Celine waiting. She stood beside a large, oval room filled with monitors, holographic displays, and equipment that made Elias's head spin. Models of starships, grids of energy fields, and graphs of harmonic resonance patterns floated in midair. It was overwhelming, but in the midst of the technology, Celine's presence grounded him. "Welcome to the Vanguard," she said, her voice calm yet commanding. "This is where humans fight when the enemy is unseen. This is where you will learn what most people never imagine exists." Elias stepped inside, looking around. I don't even know where to start," he admitted. "There's so much here." Celine smiled faintly. "Start with understanding why you are here. You have already seen the patterns. You have already done the work. Now, you must understand the truth behind the date." Elias frowned. "The date? You mean the Celestial Gardens?" "Yes," she said. "That dinner was not meant to be romantic. It was a test, not of skill, but of character. I needed to see how you would react when presented with something extraordinary, something that most humans would dismiss, avoid, or fear. Would you leave, or would you stay? Would you take responsibility, even without full understanding?" Elias thought back to her words. "You can leave if you're only being polite." He had not left. He had stayed. Somehow, in that small gesture, he had passed whatever unspoken test she had set. I stayed," he said softly. "I didn't leave. I guess I wanted to understand." "Exactly," Celine said, nodding. "And that is why you are here." She gestured to a large holographic display in the center of the room. A three-dimensional grid rotated slowly, showing a network of lines and points that seemed to shimmer and shift. "These are the anomalies you noticed," she said. "But they are more than just random disturbances. They are patterns, intelligent patterns. Something is manipulating quantum fields in ways we cannot yet fully measure." "Open." Elias stepped closer, studying the display. "But how?" How can something like this exist without being detected? Without leaving evidence? Because it is subtle, Selene explained. It does not announce itself. It does not attack openly. It observes, learns, and adapts. It communicates not with words or signals we recognize, but through harmonic distortions, tiny fluctuations in energy and frequency. The patterns you noticed in Starship logs are only the beginning. If left unchecked, these anomalies could allow these entities, to predict human behavior before we even act. Elias felt a chill. The quiet menace in her voice made him realize just how fragile their understanding of the universe was. "And you want me to help stop it?" Selene shook her head. "Not stop. Not yet. Observe. Analyze. Understand. Humans are unpredictable. That is our strength. Machines, AIs, even advanced entities cannot fully anticipate our choices. We need someone who sees the patterns, but also understands the human element, someone who can think beyond the rules, someone like you." Elias took a deep breath, letting her words sink in. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, insignificant in the vast web of Vorus dynamics, let alone the universe. And yet, here he was standing in a room filled with technology he barely understood, tasked with observing phenomena that might challenge the very survival of humanity. "You're trusting me," he said quietly. "You're letting me work on this, without full clearance. Without years of experience." Selene nodded. "Yes. Because trust is not given lightly. And because humans, when trusted, do remarkable things. That is why I invited you to the Celestial Gardens. That is why I allowed you to see beyond the standard protocols. That is why I am placing this responsibility in your hands." Elias's heart pounded. The weight of her words pressed on him, yet at the same time, a spark of determination flared inside him. This was more than just a job, more than a challenge. This was a call to action, an opportunity to prove that humans could rise above their limits. Even when faced with invisible threats, he nodded slowly. I'll do it. I want to help. I'll learn whatever I need to learn." Celine's expression softened, a rare warmth appearing in her eyes. "Good. You will not be alone. I will guide you. And soon, you will meet the rest of the team. But for now, we start with understanding, observation, analysis, and trust." Elias followed her as she moved to a console on the side of the room. She tapped a few keys, and a new display appeared. A simulation of a starship's navigation grid, overlaid with strange, shimmering waves that pulsed across the system. "These waves," Selene explained, "are the first sign of resonant activity. The resonants are what I suspect is behind the anomalies. They do not exist in physical space as we know it. They communicate and manipulate through frequency and harmonic distortion. Most humans cannot perceive them. But you have already noticed subtle disturbances, inconsistencies, echoes that others dismiss." Elias leaned in, studying the display. The patterns were faint, almost imperceptible at first, but gradually, he could see the faint traces of movement, the subtle shifts that suggested something intelligent behind them. I think I see it," he whispered. They're observing, like you said." "Yes," Selene said. "And they are patient. They have been studying humanity for years, possibly centuries. Their goal is unknown, but their presence is undeniable. That is why the Vanguard exists, not to fight blindly, not to attack, but to understand, to prepare, and to protect." Elias felt a mixture of awe and fear. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, yet the sense of purpose was exhilarating. For the first time, he realized that the anomalies he had spent months tracking, patterns no one else believed in, reports that were dismissed or ignored, were part of something far larger. "And this is why the dinner was necessary," he said slowly. "To see if I could handle it, to see if I would stay and face the unknown." Selene nodded. "Exactly. Many would have left. Many would have refused to see beyond their limited understanding. But you stayed. You observed. You questioned. And that is why you are here. Because humanity's greatest strength lies not in machines, not in technology, but in the people who refuse to give up. Even when faced with the unknown, Elias felt a surge of pride. He was just one person, a junior analyst. But for the first time, he understood that even one person could make a difference. That even ordinary humans, when trusted and given purpose, could rise to meet extraordinary challenges. Then, what happens now? He asked. Celine gestured toward the holographic simulation. Now, you learn. You study. You observe. You report patterns. And you trust in what you see. Soon, you will work with others. But for now, your task is to understand the resonance, to map their influence, to anticipate their actions. Humanity cannot afford mistakes, but it also cannot survive without courage. Elias nodded. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and unlike anything he had ever imagined. But for the first time in his life, he felt ready. Ready to face the unknown. Ready to prove that humans, even the smallest and most overlooked among them, could stand tall in the face of unimaginable challenges. As he turned back to the simulation, analyzing the subtle distortions in the starship grid, he realized that the celestial gardens had not been a dinner at all. It had been an initiation, a test of character, and he had passed. Elias Corvin, ordinary human, junior analyst, had stepped beyond the boundaries of the known, and humanity's fight for survival, for understanding, for recognition, had just begun. Elias arrived at sublevel Gamma the next morning with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. The memory of Celine's words, the previous day, the explanation of the resonance, the hidden enemy, and the Vanguard's purpose kept replaying in his mind. Today, he would move beyond theory and observation. Today, he would face his first real encounter with a resonant disturbance. He stepped into the Vanguard's operations room, greeted by the soft hum of energy shields and the flickering glow of holographic monitors. Celine stood near the central console, observing a simulation that pulsed with faint, irregular distortions. "Good morning, Elias," she said, her tone calm but firm. "Are you ready?" He nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, I think so." Celine's gaze softened slightly. "Think is not enough. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. And remember, humanity survives because we adapt, even when we do not fully understand the threat." Elias took a deep breath. He had studied the patterns of quantum echoes and harmonic distortions for weeks, analyzing anomalies no one else would notice. But now, for the first time, these patterns were no longer abstract. They had consequences. "Your first task," Celine continued, "is to monitor a live starship grid. The Aurora Vanguard, one of our long-range exploration vessels, has reported unusual interference near the Kuiper Passage. Standard AI analysis was inconclusive, but the resonant signature is present. You will detect it, interpret it, and guide the countermeasures." Elias swallowed again, feeling both fear and excitement. The Aurora Vanguard was more than a test subject. It was a human crew's home in deep space. A misstep could have consequences. He focused on the holographic display that rose before him. A three-dimensional map of the Kuiper Passage and the Aurora Vanguard's trajectory. The simulation flickered, and faint ripples appeared along the ship's path. At first, they were almost invisible, like tiny distortions in the air, but Elias recognized the subtle patterns immediately: the irregular harmonics, the slight shifts in quantum fields. The resonance were here. "Do you see it?" Celine asked quietly. "Yes," Elias said, leaning closer. "There, moving along the ship's energy signature. Subtle, but deliberate. It's like they're studying us." Celine nodded. "Exactly. And they are learning fast. The faster we respond, the more we can protect humanity." But you must act carefully. Misreading the patterns could trigger consequences we cannot predict. Elias's hands moved over the controls, adjusting frequencies and scanning for harmonic fluctuations. The ripples in the simulation shifted, responding to his inputs. It was as if the resonance were aware of him, observing his every action. His heart raced, but he forced himself to focus. Increase the counter-harmonic amplitude by 0.07, he muttered, analyzing the patterns. Slowly. Watch the feedback loop. Yes. Stabilize it there. Celine's eyes widened slightly. Well done. You are reading them correctly. They are adapting, but you are faster than their predictions. The simulation pulsed again, stronger this time. The ripples became more chaotic, threatening to destabilize the Aurora Vanguard's core systems. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline. He had trained for theory, but this was real. Every decision mattered. Counter-harmonic adjustment apply to 0.12. Maintain resonance. Watch for phase inversion. The ripples hesitated, then began to diminish. Elias's pulse pounded in his ears, but he did not stop. He continued to guide the system, interpreting subtle fluctuations in real time. Slowly, the resonant interference subsided, leaving the Aurora Vanguard system stable. Celine exhaled softly. Impressive. You acted decisively, trusted your instincts, and adapted to the unknown. That is why humans survive. That is why we stand tall, even when the enemy is invisible. Elias leaned back, shaking with relief and excitement. For the first time, he realized the truth of her words. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not AI, not even sheer numbers. It was people who observed, adapted, and acted when others hesitated. People like him, ordinary humans, who refused to underestimate themselves. You handled that exceptionally well, Celine said, her eyes reflecting a rare warmth. Most analysts would have panicked or relied entirely on AI. But you trusted yourself. And that made the difference. Elias swallowed, still feeling the adrenaline. I didn't know if I could. I've studied the patterns. Yes. But it's different when it's real. When it's not just simulations. Exactly, Celine said. Theory prepares you, but experience strengthens you. And now, you have both. You have seen the resonance strategy, interpreted their movements, and acted decisively. That is what makes humans exceptional. Elias stared at the stabilized holographic display. The faint ripples had vanished, but their presence lingered in his mind. The resonance were not defeated, they had been observed, countered, and temporarily contained. But they were still out there, patient and intelligent, learning from every human action. Celine's voice brought him back. Now you understand why the Vanguard exists. Not to fight blindly, not to rely on technology alone, but to empower humans to think, adapt, and act. The resonants are clever, but humans are resilient. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We survive, and sometimes, we prevail against all odds. Elias nodded slowly. He felt a sense of pride mixed with determination. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but he also felt the spark of purpose. He was part of something larger than himself, something that could define humanity's future. Tomorrow, Celine continued, we will run a live exercise. You will coordinate with a small team to stabilize multiple ship grids simultaneously. The resonance patterns are growing more complex. Humanity must learn to anticipate them, not just react. Elias felt a thrill of anticipation. This was no longer observation, this was action, and he was ready. As the day ended, Elias stayed in sublevel gamma longer than usual, studying the simulations and patterns. He analyzed every subtle fluctuation, every harmonic shift, every minor disturbance. Hours passed, and the room grew quiet. The faint hum of the energy shields was a constant reminder that humanity's survival was a delicate balance, one that required vigilance, courage, and intellect. Celine approached him as he prepared to leave. "You performed well today," she said. "Remember this. Humans survive not because we are strongest, fastest, or smartest. We survive because we do not surrender. We adapt, we learn, and we fight when necessary. And sometimes, we fight when others would flee. That is why we are here, Elias. That is why the Vanguard exists, and that is why you are here." Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He had learned something profound today, not just about the resonance, but about humanity itself. That strength was not measured in numbers, technology, or even power. It was measured in courage, determination, and the refusal to be underestimated. As he left sublevel Gamma, the city of Helion Spire glittered below him, a vast network of human ingenuity and resilience. For the first time, he saw it not as a collection of machines, towers, and systems, but as a reflection of the people who lived within it, the humans who built it, maintained it, and defended it. Elias knew the challenges ahead would be greater. The resonants were patient, intelligent, and unpredictable. But he also knew this: humanity had a strength that could not be measured, predicted, or destroyed. And as long as humans believed in themselves, in each other, and in the potential to rise above adversity, they could face any challenge, even one as subtle, strange, and dangerous as the resonance. And for the first time, Elias felt truly ready. The next stage of the Vanguard's mission had begun. Humanity's resilience was about to be tested, and Elias would be at the forefront, learning what it meant to stand tall, even when the enemy was invisible. The stars above Helion Spire shimmered silently, watching the actions of a single human analyst who had stepped into the unknown. And in that moment, for the first time, humanity had someone capable of observing the enemy before they struck, someone who could interpret the subtle signals, act decisively, and remind the universe why humans were never to be underestimated. Elias clenched his fists, feeling a surge of determination. The Vanguard was not just a project. It was a declaration. Humans endure. Humans adapt. Humans fight, and humans stand tall, no matter the odds. And with that, he turned back toward the operations room, ready for whatever the resonance and the universe would throw at him next. Elias woke early the next morning, his mind still buzzing from the previous day's encounter with the resonant disturbance. The simulation had ended successfully, but it had only been a small taste of what lay ahead. The subtle, intelligent entity or entities remained a mystery. One thing was certain: humanity's future depended not on technology alone, but on the courage, determination, and adaptability of people like him. He arrived at sublevel Gamma to find Celine already at the central console, reviewing data. Her calm demeanor made her seem unshakable, yet Elias could sense the weight of responsibility she carried. She was the leader, strategist, and guardian of a secret humanity did not fully understand, and she trusted him to step into that role beside her. "Good morning, Elias," she said, her voice carrying a rare warmth. "Today, you will face a challenge unlike the simulation. The resonants are no longer subtle. They have escalated. The interference is affecting multiple ships in the Vega sector. Your task: coordinate real-time countermeasures, communicate with crews, and stabilize the situation before it escalates further." Elias swallowed hard. He had been trained in theory and simulations, but this was the real thing. Lives depended on him. Mistakes could be catastrophic. He nodded. "I understand. Let's do this." Celine gave a faint smile. "Good. Trust yourself. Humanity depends on it." The operations room hummed with energy as holographic displays came to life. Elias scanned the grids of the Vega sector, noticing faint ripples of harmonic distortion spreading across multiple starship paths. The resonants were moving faster than before, learning from their previous encounter. They were intelligent, adaptive, and patient, but humans had something they could not predict: creativity, determination, and courage. "Coordinate with the crew on Aurora Vanguard," Elias instructed, his voice steady. Adjust the counter-harmonic resonance. Observe feedback loops. Apply corrections gradually. Timing is crucial. Celine stood behind him, watching intently. Remember, Elias, humans survive because we do not surrender. Act decisively. Adapt, and trust your instincts. Elias's hands moved quickly over the controls, adjusting frequencies and monitoring the harmonic patterns. The ripples responded, but the resonance had evolved. Their interference was no longer predictable. The grids fluctuated more rapidly, threatening to destabilize several ships at once. Increase amplitude by 0.08 on grid alpha, he muttered. Phase inversion. Now. Maintain resonance. Watch for feedback spikes. The monitors pulsed in response, showing the distortions slowly stabilizing. But another wave appeared almost immediately, stronger and more erratic. Elias's pulse quickened. He had to act fast, think clearly, and stay ahead of the entity's predictions. Celine. They're adapting, he said, his voice tense but controlled. We need a new approach. Celine nodded. Use human intuition. Remember, they anticipate patterns, but not creativity. Think beyond the standard algorithms. Act instinctively. Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment, focusing. He remembered Celine's words from the celestial gardens. Humans survive because we adapt, even when we do not fully understand the threat. That thought grounded him. He opened his eyes, analyzed the harmonic distortions, and saw an irregular pattern. Subtle, almost imperceptible. There, he said. They are repeating a sequence. Not random, deliberate. If we disrupt the rhythm in a specific counterphase, we can destabilize their observation loop temporarily. Celine's eyes widened. Do it. Now. Elias adjusted the controls carefully, applying the counterphase resonance. The ripples fluctuated violently for a moment, then began to diminish. The grid stabilized. The ship's systems returned to normal. The resonance influence was contained, at least for now. Celine exhaled softly, her face showing rare relief. Excellent work, Elias. You acted decisively, trusted your instincts, and adapted. That is why humans survive. That is why we can stand tall against the unknown. Elias's chest heaved. He felt a surge of pride, but also a deep understanding. This was only the beginning. The resonance had been observed, countered, but they were still out there. Learning, waiting, adapting. Humanity could not afford complacency. Tomorrow, Celine continued, you will lead a team in a multi-grid stabilization exercise. The resonants are clever, but humans are resilient. We do not give up. We learn, we adapt, and we fight when necessary. Elias nodded, feeling a mix of determination and responsibility. He had faced the unknown, acted decisively, and proven that humans could rise to challenges even when the enemy was invisible. But he also knew the stakes would grow higher. The resonance would return, more intelligent, more patient, and more dangerous. As the day ended, Elias remained in sublevel gamma, reviewing the data, analyzing the patterns, and preparing for the next challenge. He understood now what Celine had meant in the celestial gardens. Humanity's strength was not in technology alone, but in the people who refused to surrender, who observed, adapted, and acted when the unknown threatened their world. Celine approached him as he studied the displays. You performed well today, she said, but remember this. The fight is not only against the unknown outside, it is also against doubt, hesitation, and fear. Humans survive because we trust ourselves, trust each other, and act decisively even when the odds are uncertain. That is why the Vanguard exists, and that is why you are here. Elias nodded. I understand. I'll be ready for whatever comes next. She smiled faintly. Good. Now rest. Tomorrow brings new challenges, and you will need all your strength and focus. Humanity's survival depends on courage and adaptability. And now, you have proven you have both. As Elias left sublevel Gamma and looked out over Helion Spire, he realized how far he had come. Just days ago, he had been a junior analyst, unnoticed, overlooked, and uncertain. Now, he was part of a mission that could shape humanity's future. He had faced an intelligent, invisible threat, acted decisively, and proven that humans, even ordinary ones, could stand tall against the unknown. He remembered Seleni's words from the first day. Humans fight hardest when underestimated. That truth had guided him through the challenges, and it would continue to guide him in the battles ahead. The stars above Helion Spire shimmered silently, observing the actions of a single human analyst who had stepped into the unknown and risen to the occasion. Elias understood now that humanity's strength lay not in numbers or machines, but in courage, intelligence, and determination. The resonants were patient, intelligent, and adaptive. They would return. But humanity had a new weapon. People who would not surrender. Who would observe, learn, and act decisively. People who could adapt faster than any algorithm, outthink an invisible enemy, and stand tall when the odds seemed impossible. Elias clenched his fists, feeling a surge of determination. He would face whatever came next. He would learn, adapt, and act. He would not be underestimated. And Selene Voris, observing quietly from the operations console, knew humanity had found a new ally, a human who could see the invisible, trust in instinct, and remind the universe why humans were never to be ignored. Together, Elias and Selene formed a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Humanity's resilience had a new face, one that would rise to challenges, confront the unknown, and ensure that humans would continue to survive and thrive, even when the enemy was invisible, patient, and intelligent. The Vanguard was no longer just a secret initiative. It was a symbol. Humans endure, humans adapt, and humans fight. And Elias Corvin, once a junior analyst overlooked in the shadows of Helion Spire, had become the embodiment of that spirit. As night fell over the orbital city, Elias gazed at the stars beyond the transparent dome, thinking of the journey ahead. The resonants were out there, observing, learning, and waiting. But now, humans had someone who could anticipate them, someone who could think, adapt, and act. Someone who would ensure that humanity remained resilient, resourceful, and courageous. And humanity's story was far from over.